Hi, and welcome to another episode of Ask on CYC. So coming from a Coptic Christian background, or even coming from a Christian background, we are always involved in our community, with our families, and we always serve at church and have our parish priest where we go to for help and advice. So we're pretty much involved in our community. So what happens when all this gets taken away from us, when we have to leave all this behind and travel so we can study in order to advance in our education? So do we leave our community behind? Do we leave our spirituality behind? And that's what we're going to talk about today, in today's episode, on what we should do to keep our spiritual vigor while traveling interstate. So I'd like to remind the viewers, if you want to throw in questions at us, please send your questions to 0416 551 292. Please send your questions, give us a text or give us a call and speak to our guest, and we'll answer your questions live on the show here tonight. So let me introduce you to our guest. We have with us an Interstate student, Kitty Gade. Welcome, Kitty.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you on the show.
It's a pleasure being here.
So please, we want to get comfortable and familiar with you. So tell me about yourself. What are you studying and whereabouts are you studying?
Yep. So I study medicine in my final year, and I'm up in Townsville, which is far north Queensland, just an hour below Cairns by plane.
And how is it up there?
It's very hot and very humid all year round. So it's very different from...
I hear it's very rural.
Very rural. It's quite regional. I wouldn't say rural, but it's quite regional. Example, we just got a Maya a few years ago. So that's how regional it is.
Yeah. And you've been there for almost 6 years now, yeah?
Yeah, going on to my 6th year.
So you would say you're comfortable with the area now?
I'd hope so.
It's different from the city life.
Yeah, it's really different from city life. When I first applied for Townsville, to be honest, it was just another thing else. Medicine. All right, I'm just going to apply for it. And I just applied for it, and that was it. I had no idea where Townsville was at all. So when I got my interview, I was pretty surprised. And when I got there, I was even more surprised because it's very humid and hot and different, and there's not much high rise like there is here. So being from Sydney, it was a big shock to me. But yeah.
So you went to a town where you knew nothing about. So tell me, what motivated you to pack up your things and leave in order to study interstate?
Well, ultimately I wanted to do medicine for quite a few years when I was in school. So I worked really hard towards that. And to be honest, Townsville was the only place I got at the time. And I was basically I was going to take whatever I could get because I really wanted to do medicine. I was really motivated to study. And when I got it, I was just like, this is very different from what I'm used to, and I didn't know if I could really cope, but I took it, and I'm really glad I did. So I packed up all my things and I moved. So
were you mentally prepared for it, or what did you have to do to push yourself to make that big decision?
So it's a good question. I think you can't fully mentally prepare for it because you don't really know what you're going into, because it's not like school, it's uni, it's a completely different dimension to your life. The things you can mentally prepare for are, you know that you're going to be living by yourself, you're going to be away from your family, you're going to be away from your friends, you're going to be away from the cafes that you usually go to and the shops, and you basically got to be mentally prepared to be an individual. But as to what's to come, you can't really prepare for that. You kind of take it as it comes.
Coming from an Egyptian culture where our parents nurtured us from a young age up until the day we leave and get married, how encouraging were they for this decision?
Well, I think like any parents, they didn't really want me to leave. But they knew how much I wanted to do medicine and how, it was a pretty good career for me as well. So, they let me go, I'd say. But I came from a very sheltered, family. I went to an all-girls school as well. My parents did everything for me, even up to making my bed. I never did anything for myself. So moving away from home was a very big step. But I think the roots of, the church, and my parents had brought me up in the church, and I always went to Sunday school, and I knew where I was from and my background. I think they were confident enough to let me go and know that I'll still be the same person when I come back.
Okay. So adding on to that, I want to ask, for those who are dependent on their parents,
Like me.
who just lived at home and just lived off their parents, doing everything for them. So obviously moving interstate where you're on your own and you have to fend for yourself and do everything for yourself, so you're pretty much responsible for yourself. Would you say someone who's very dependent on their parents are going to struggle with that at first? Or is it easy to get into the routine and habit of being responsible for yourself?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yes, please.
Personally, I struggled for the first year. I was very much all over the place. I wasn't attending all the lectures that I should. I wasn't. My sleeping patterns were all over the place. You're making friends with a lot of different people, and you're very confused. I think at first, it's a new place. You're away from your family, away from your friends, you're away from everything you know. So, and you've got to do everything yourself. So you've got to have time to to do your bed, to clean your dishes, to do your washing, to have dinner. It's very different from what I'm used to, and I struggled personally at first for about a year. I didn't settle in till maybe second year or maybe halfway through second year, but it's definitely doable. Like, you adapt. You don't struggle forever. You adapt as long as you're willing to adapt, and you tell yourself that this is where I am and I have to make the most of it and I have to adapt, just like you would in any situation. You end up adapting, even if you're dependent on your parents, because I was.
Did you ever at all feel like you're about to give up and want to go home?
Not personally, because as a person, I'm a very determined person. So I knew that I'd never give up, and I was very determined to make sure that I liked where I was, and I, got involved in Townsville. But I do know a lot of people who struggle, and they say themselves, I don't want to be here and I don't want to do this. And, it's unfortunate to see because, I think some people see going interstate as a negative thing, but I think it's a very positive thing. I think you're very fortunate to be given the opportunity to study interstate and to develop the dependence that you'd eventually one day develop. But, getting an early experience, I think that's a great thing.
I'm sure there might be some negatives, but before we talk about negatives, I want to ask you, so from the time you decided you wanted to go to the actual time you packed your bags and left, how long was that?
So I think I got my offer sometime maybe 13th of January, and we started early March or late February. When I first got it, so that was about a month and a half, I was kind of in a bit of disbelief, and I talked to my confession father.
But when did you actually decide? As
soon as I got the offer, I don't think I really had a choice in that. My parents were like,
sure,
you have to go. But I did also want to go myself.
So we're looking at a couple of months?
About a month and a half.
Month and a half.
Yeah.
So would you recommend for those who do venture out and make this decision that in that month and a half they should train themselves to be independent? So they don't go in with a shock?
You could. I didn't. You could. That's really a smart idea, but I didn't. You're going to adapt. It doesn't matter whether you do or you don't. You're going to adapt. It's a human race, I guess.
Yeah,
That happens.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. But maybe it's a good idea. The way I would think about it is if I know I'm leaving home, in that month and a half, I'll do it under my parents' guidance. So if I'm making mistakes, I'm learning from them. So when I do go out there,
it's probably a smart idea. I didn't do it myself, but it's a smart idea. I don't know, maybe getting used to making your bed in the morning, doing your own washing, doing the dishes, cooking, learn how to cook, because most people don't know how to cook.
Do you think that was the hardest out of all the tasks, the cooking part?
I'm a good cook.
Okay.
I don't have an issue, but a lot of people do. So, but I'm on campus at the moment, so I get cooked for by the chefs, but the food is absolutely horrific. But
okay, and do they cater for fasting periods?
They do, yeah.
Okay. Oh, cool.
So they're very, very accepting of everyone, especially at uni. I think most people start realizing, and especially the colleges that we're at. We tell them the periods that we're going to fast, and they have a good amount of vegetarian foods. It's not great, but it's better than nothing.
Sure, that adds to the struggle of being a Christian.
Yeah, you're fasting all year round basically, but
sure. That's true, yeah. So I want to talk about the negatives. I know you mentioned the bad food, but let's talk about the real negatives and dangers of living interstate, especially up in towards Townsville. What are they, and what should youth look out for?
So I think the negatives would be the same as if you stayed home, but they're a bit more, exacerbated because you don't have, the church very firmly standing there saying, no, you can't do this, or yes, you can do this, or your parents, guiding you, or the friends that you usually have. So the main negatives would be, of course, firstly, you're away from your family completely. So you don't have that comfort around you that you usually would. Secondly, making friends. It can be, it's a good thing, but sometimes you can get involved with the wrong people and you'll have no one there to stop you because you're independent and you're all there on your own. So that's another negative. A third negative is, whilst independence is a positive, at the same time it's a bit of a struggle at first. But to be honest, I think there are more positives than there are negatives. So, yeah.
Okay. We just got a question that came in from the audience. They're asking, when you first went to Townsville, was it better or worse than you expected?
It was a lot better than I expected. There was a few Coptic Orthodox people already there, a few guys in the years above us and two girls, and they made me feel at home, and to be honest, I loved it. I very firmly believe in it's who you're with, not where you are. So when I realised who I was with these people that were so good to me and that loved me and cared for me, I loved it, to be honest. And it was a lot better than I expected, because when I went up for my interview and I saw the sort of place it was and how different it was from where I'm from, I was really worried. But no, it was a lot better than I thought.
Are you guys staying in dorms, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we've got a few campuses there. A lot of us are at Western Courts, so they're like demountable sort of tin houses. They're kind of crappy, but they do the job, and you have your own bathroom, and they cater for you, like I said before, and you get a cleaner once a week, and everyone's like within really close proximity to it. So if you ever need help studying, or you need a study buddy, or you need to talk to someone, you're basically on camp with your friends all the time.
Sure. So living in these dorms, at night, do they have dorm parties? Are you guys exposed to alcohol or drugs?
Oh yeah. Oh, from the first day I was there, there were so we had deck parties. So because we have really big decks, they get big tables out and they have chairs all around them, and people drink till early hours of the morning.
And this is the normal lifestyle.
That's for a lot of people, it's a very normal lifestyle, and I wish I'd say like that's the worst of it, but there is a lot worse. Of course, like any uni, but more because you're interstate and you're on campus. There's a lot of drugs and alcohol, and a lot of things that people aren't exposed to when they're home with their families.
Yeah. So how did you guys deal with that?
Well,
it's always around you. It's always in your face. It's become part of the lifestyle there. So how did you guys move away from this lifestyle?
Yeah, well, I think because most of us come from, Coptic Orthodox backgrounds, it's been drilled into us from when we're young what was right and what's wrong. You kind of go in already knowing, it's not good to take drugs, it's not good to do this. Whilst everyone else might do it, I know that, from my roots, it's not right. So, and the people there are quite accepting as well. I don't think it's just Townsville, I think just like nationwide Australians in general, like if you tell them, I'm not comfortable doing that, they're not going to try and force you, they're not going to try and, pressure you into doing it, they kind of accept you. But also because we had such a strong community there, we support each other. Whilst everyone on Friday nights might go out and, get drunk on the decks and, pass out to the early morning, we'd go out and go ice skating, for example. Like
Okay.
you'd substitute it. It's not I'm going to lock myself in my room and just not pay attention. It's not there. You're still friends with these people, but at the same time, you do what you feel comfortable doing.
Sure. And are you guys encouraging towards each other as a community?
Oh yeah, definitely. We're family. I think a lot more in Townsville than maybe other places, but because we're such a small, tight-knit community, and we take care of each other and we stand by each other and we help each other through everything, spiritual life and study and work. I think we're just such a good community and we're close together like that.
Okay. Just a reminder to our audience members, please, if you want to ask Kitty a question about studying interstate, send in your text to 0416 551 292. Or if you want to have a chat with her, give us a call and we'll take your call live on the show here tonight. So, studying interstate, so you're living a hectic lifestyle. What I'm trying to ask is, you're trying to pass your exams so you don't stay there as long as possible. So study life is hectic down in Townsville. But has it become too hectic to the point where some people would neglect their spiritual life?
I don't think to the point where you'd neglect your spiritual life. I think if you'd neglect your spiritual life, it's more out of laziness or out of getting sidetracked.
But is it easy to neglect spiritual life when you're involved in the busyness of uni life?
Yeah, no, you can. You definitely can. But I think you need to be very vigilant with your spiritual life, especially that you're away from. Well, we have a church now in Townsville, but previously we didn't. So you need to, actively be in contact with your confession father, or like you normally do. You'd pray at night. You'd read the Agabiyah. You'd do your quiet time. But I don't think it's as much of an issue now as it would have been maybe 20, 30 years ago in terms of your spiritual life, because we have, the internet, we have sermons online, we have live streaming, so it's not as big of an issue, but it is easy to neglect your spiritual life and get caught up. I wouldn't say in study, but I'd just say in other things.
Sure. I know you mentioned churches. You got a church now.
Yeah.
How long has it been there?
I think 1.5 years or 2 years.
Okay.
So it's fairly new.
All right. And what else facilities do you guys have? Do you guys have youth groups? Do you guys have prayer groups? Do priests come up and visit you guys? What are the facilities that you guys have in terms of spirituality?
Yeah. So we have youth meeting, just like you normally would. We'd have Bible study. We have...
How often are your youth meetings? Just once a week?
Once a week, and Bible studies once a week, Fridays and Mondays. After dinner, we have a priest come up every 2 weeks in the church. We have quiet time groups, like we have study buddy or quiet time buddy groups, where you're budded up with a few people and you text each other after you do your quiet time every morning. And we have, like I said, we have the priest come up every 2 weeks, so you're pretty much on time with Holy Communion. So that's good.
Sure. In terms of confession, how do you guys deal with that?
We can confess to the priests that come up. We don't always get the same priest. This year we had Father Thomas. He came quite regularly, and so we'd confess to him. But you can also confess to whatever priests come. But like I said, you can call your own confession father and confess over the phone. Sure,
of course. So Christian lifestyle is easy accessible interstate. So no one has any excuses?
You don't have an excuse. I don't think you have an excuse. But I think in terms of uni itself, the hectic lifestyle is, the study is the same. You study hard in year 12 to get into whatever course you want to get into. You're also going to study hard in uni. But the difference between uni and school is that uni is a lot more open in terms of, the social life and, the aspects of getting sidetracked from your spiritual life. And a lot of people do get sidetracked, but that's, it's part of life, I guess. But they always end up coming back.
Okay. We're going to go for a quick break.
Yep.
And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion.
No worries.
So we're going to go for a quick break. And I just want to remind the audience members, please, the phone number is 0416 551 292. Please send your questions. And when we come back from the break, we'll answer your questions live on the show here tonight. Thank you.
Struggling.
Are you interested in youth problems?
I have many friends who would say that their body is their business.
Do you wonder of specific matters in your life?
The reason why they created that choir was to stop women from actually talking and from gossiping.
Are you afraid of making some quick decisions?
Abortion shouldn't happen because we don't know if the fetus is a person.
Do you want to know many answers of various questions?
Men and women are different, and I think unfortunately society at the moment really doesn't want to accept that.
Just watch Youth Chat on CYC.
الشخص الروحي يشعر أن حياته ملك للناس. وربنا أعطاه هذه الحياة لخدمة الناس ولإسعاد الناس.
CYC, Christian Youth Channel.
Welcome back to Ask on CYC. So today's topic is about studying interstate and how do we deal with it and how do we maintain spiritual vigor. So please, the phone number is 0416 551 292. Please send your questions and we'll answer it for you live on the show. So back with Kitty. So Kitty, we just got a question that came in from an audience member. They're asking, did your spiritual life change for the better after moving out? And the second question they're asking, do you think it's the same with other Orthodox Christian students?
Yep, so I definitely think it changed for the better for me personally. When I was in Year 12, I really wasn't involved in many church things. I had no idea what Tezbeha was. I never went to youth meeting, I never went to Bible study. Because I didn't go to a Coptic school, I went to Meriden, which was an all-girls school. I wasn't really exposed to those sort of things. But when I moved to Townsville, a lot of the youth there were very involved in the church, so they got me involved in the church, which is something I never did before. So I definitely think in terms of involvement in the church, I've gotten a lot better, and my spiritual life has definitely, gotten better.
Okay. So how much of you guys are up there of the Coptic youth?
How many of us?
Yeah.
I think there's 40 students. I don't know if that's including or not including the families, but 40.
Okay. And do you guys all, how do you encourage each other how do you push each other to maintain that spiritual vigor, or to get involved in service, or to get involved in any spiritual activities?
Yeah. So just like, people say, it's family away from family, this is a church away from church. So up there we're a church and a family, we're actually united. And when we get younger years, straight away we try and involve them in, the youth meeting, in Bible study, in running Tezbeha. And you'll find a lot of them as well, because they've been involved previously, they have so much more to give in Townsville. Like, I've never seen us, in the 5 or almost 6 years now that I've been there, I've never seen the spiritual level regress. I've only seen it get better, because everyone that comes has so much more to add, and we encourage each other to do more. And there's been, over the years, I found that there's even been more structure to, the way we run things. And it's all because people come in with such great ideas, and they've done it previously from where they're from, and they bring it up to Townsville. Yeah.
Okay. So we've been talking about having a community up where you're studying in Townsville.
Mm.
So hypothetically, let's say a student travels somewhere else and there isn't that Coptic community, or there isn't that Christian community, and he finds himself, or they find themselves on their own. So there are no other practicing Christians in the same location as this person, for example. So how can they still maintain that spiritual vigor, even though they're on their own and there's no encouragement?
I think it'd be hard. It's going to be a lot harder than if you were at home or in Townsville or somewhere where you had people that were Coptic Orthodox around you, were Christians. But in saying that, I think that, like I said before, nowadays there's no excuse as to be like, I didn't have a church, I didn't have people around me. You've got the internet, you've got sermons online, you've got technology around you. So it'll be hard by yourself, I think, and you might be a bit discouraged, But I think if you could keep in communication with whatever church you're from, and they might link you in with their Bible studies, and you can watch it online, or with their youth meetings. So I don't see it as being a serious issue. Whilst it might be hard, I think it's definitely doable.
Sure. So do you think a person, before they make a decision like that, they should be prepared before they make the move out?
Oh, definitely. So if you find out that you're going somewhere and you're going to be alone, or like if you find out you're going somewhere full stop, I think you need to research it first, see how many people, how many Coptic Orthodox or Orthodox Christians are there, see if there's a church there, see if there's anyone you know there, and if not, implement ways to make sure that you can stay on track with your Christian life, such as keeping in communication with your confession father.
Sure. So you've been in Townsville almost 6 years now. So how was your overall experience?
I loved it. You know what, people like get surprised when I say that, because they're like, Townsville's in the middle of nowhere, it's regional, it's hot, it sucks, but it really doesn't. And like I said before, it's who you're with, not where you are. I've loved the last 5 years, and I don't think I'd change anything, We've laughed a lot, we've had such good times, we've gone out, we've had fun, and we've studied really, really hard. Like I was just talking to one of my friends before, and I was saying that the last set of exams we just had, our 5th year exams, were our exit exams, so we don't have any more exams after this. And I don't think we've ever laughed more than we did like the 2 months just before these exams, even though we were kind of at our craziest and we were a bit stressed and exhausted and tired from study. But we just, you make the best of it, honestly. And anyone who says that, or anyone who has that mentality, which a lot of people do, that, I want to go home, I don't want to be here, and, I can't wait till I'm done to leave. You won't enjoy it, and you're wishing away the best years of your life, literally. So I personally, I've loved Townsville, even though it's not home, but for the 6 years I've been there, or 5 years I've been there, I've absolutely loved it, honestly.
So 6 years is a small lifetime, so
Yeah.
so one must be comfortable and happy living there, if they're going to spend the 6 years.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I was saying before, there's this negative sort of like thought process that most people have, or a lot of people have, is that, after year 12, after I finish my exams, then I'll be happy, After I get my 99.5, then I'll be happy. No. After I get into whatever course I want, then I'll be happy. No. After I get to uni, then I'll be happy. No. After I finish uni, then I'll be happy. And you find that they're never actually happy. And this is honestly what I've seen, that a lot of people come to uni and they do that, and they don't enjoy life. They don't study and go out and have fun and, go to their lectures and work hard. They have no balance, and they're so caught up in wanting to go home all the time that they don't actually enjoy themselves, and they keep wishing their uni life away. And I'm kind of like sad when I see that, because uni is supposed to be the best time of your life. It's when you can skip out on one lecture once a week, and it's okay. You can go out for coffee whenever you want with your friends. You can have fun, you can enjoy yourself. And I think it's just a shame to see people look at it in such a negative light, being interstate, when it's really not that bad. Like, I've got a very, I'm very close-knit with my own family, we're very close, and I've got 2 sisters, and, very close to my parents, and my fiancé is in Sydney, so I have every reason to want to come back to Sydney, which I do eventually when I finish, but, like, I'd never change being in Townsville.
Yeah, okay. We got a question, actually a couple of questions that came in from audience members. They're asking, given the option, would you have preferred to stay at home instead of interstate? Why or why not? Also, they're asking, what's the best part of studying interstate? I'm sure you just mentioned that now, but if you want to answer the question, you're more than welcome.
Yeah. So like I said, if I got given the chance to go back and stay in Sydney, I definitely wouldn't. Townsville has been the best thing that's happened to me to date, in terms of I've grown so much as a person. I do look at some of my friends from school who has stayed in Sydney, and I feel like they haven't grown. They're not very dependent. They've still got the same mindset that they did have at school. But having gone to Townsville, I feel like I've grown as a person, and I've had that opportunity to develop as the person I am today. I know it sounds very cliche, but it's actually true. And what was the second question, sorry?
The best part of studying interstate.
Best part? Personally, my friends, I love them. They're so funny. And I have that opportunity to, I basically, like I said, it's like camp. You're on camp permanently. So, you can stay up with your friends if you want. Like here in Sydney, it's a bit hard to stay up till early hours of the morning joking and laughing and, getting late night Macca's runs. You can't really do that. Your parents will kind of be like, where are you? Come home now, it's too late. But like interstate, you kind of don't have anyone telling you, you know, you have to come home by 10 o'clock. You know, if you want to go for a Macca's run at 1 o'clock in the morning, you kind of can. And it's nice. It's nice to kind of have that freedom, as long as, you know, you're aware of what's right and what's wrong, and you know what you can and can't do, and you know where the boundaries are. You can enjoy it so much.
Yeah. Okay. We actually have a caller from Hawaii, so I want to welcome the caller onto the show.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Nina. Hi, Kitty. I love the show. I watch it all the time. I just wanted to ask about studying internationally. So I know the show is about interstate, but I wanted to ask, how about traveling abroad and going to study internationally, coming to Hawaii, or coming to somewhere like going from the US to Australia, or from Australia to the US, and whether that's a good idea, or if it's safe, or moving around from your family and living on your own, is that a good thing? Is it preferred? If it's better, if it's a better environment, if it's better education facilities? What do you think?
Okay. Thank you, caller, for your question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So I think away from home is away from home, whether it be internationally or interstate. International is actually a bit harder because also there's a time difference, and you know, calling your families and Skyping your families and everything, that will be a bit hard. But I think like I've strongly encourage anyone to move away from home to study, even if it's for a little bit, even if it's for a semester or a year, but internationally. Personally, I haven't done it, but I'd love to. I'd encourage it. I know a lot of people in medicine in 6th year, so next year, have 2 months where they're allowed to go overseas, and I've never heard anything negative about it, whether it be Hawaii, which I've been and I absolutely love. I think that'd be a great place to go study, but I think I'd encourage it, and you'd have the same, you know, exactly the same thing as if you did interstate. You know, you'd grow independently, and I think you might even probably grow even more than you would interstate, because you'd be completely separated from everything that you know, and you'd be forced to grow as a person and forced to make friends, you know, and basically have another family in a different country.
Okay. I'd like to thank the caller for this question. Actually, just to let you know, we will be interviewing a student who has traveled internationally to study, so stay tuned for that. Thank you, caller. So moving on to the next question, which came in from an audience member. They're asking, is it depressing studying interstate away from everyone, and how can someone adapt?
Definitely not depressing. Like I was saying before, when I see those students lock themselves in their room and they don't come out to social events, and they don't, you know, come to dinners, and they don't mingle with people, and they don't try and make friends with, whether it be Coptic or not Coptic, something I've strongly encouraged, to make friends with everyone. Don't just stick to, you know, the Egyptians or the Coptics, be friends with everyone. When I see that, and I see them getting depressed, and I feel like it's something that's not necessary. But personally, it's not depressing being away from home for me, because I've told myself I'm going to be here. I have to make the best of it. I'm not going to waste 5 or 6 years of my life being upset and wishing I was home, even though I have every reason to want to go home. I've made my own family in Townsville. You know, the way to adapt is to, you know, have a schedule, you know, study hard, you know, have friends, have a family, have a social life, and be balanced. I think being balanced is the most important thing to avoid, you know, spiraling into that zone of depression, which is very easy for people to fall into. But no, personally, I haven't been depressed.
Yeah. Okay. We have a question. It's probably one of your friends from where you're studying.
Oh, no.
They're actually asking, who is your favorite member of Focus?
Oh, no.
So firstly, what is Focus, and who is your favorite member?
So Focus is, it's a group of uni students. It's the Fellowship of the University Christian University Students. And so we're a group basically of Christian students that are always together. We go out, we have outings, we have fundraisers, we go to church together. A few of the students from the group run Tazbeha, or the youth meeting, or the Bible study. So basically it's a group of friends. It's a family, to be honest. Like, I can't explain to you how much of Townsville's a family, and how if anyone moves interstate, they need to make a strong connection with the family. But my most favourite, I hate them all. I'm joking. You can't do this to me. They'll punish me for it. Andrew Mossad, he's in my year, and Ramaz Basum, he's also in my year. Those two boys.
So if they're watching out there...
And yeah, they're definitely watching. And Danuka, she's my best friend as well.
Okay, shout out to them.
Shout out to them.
Okay, I have one final question for you before we end the show.
Yeah.
Please, any advice to anyone who is studying interstate and who is thinking about studying interstate? Please share your experience and advice to these people out there watching.
So for people who are going to study interstate, have an open mind, enjoy it. Don't go wishing you were still at home. Don't, want to go. The girls usually want to go home to mama and baba, and the boys want to go home to their boys, I guess. Don't have that mentality. Don't go in with that mindset. Go in with an open mind. Go in wanting to make friends with everyone. Go in wanting to study hard and, enjoy life. Don't wish it away. Like, I can't stress that enough because I see it happening and it really hurts me. For someone who's already interstate, enjoy it. If you're in that spiral of sort of depression and you've kind of like locked yourself up, it's never too late to, try and make friends again and to go out and to enjoy life. But yeah, like I said, just really enjoy it and have fun and don't wish it away because you'll really regret it.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you, and thank you for your insight on moving interstate and maintaining the spiritual vigor.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to our viewers for tuning in today's show. So remember, if you have any questions about any topics that we have on the show, please send your questions and we'll answer your show live here on the show. This show is for you. This show is for your questions. So please tune in and encourage your friends to tune in where the topics are relatable to them. So if you know anyone who is thinking about moving interstate, please share this episode with them. I'm your host, Mina Ibrahim, from your CYC studios in Sydney. Good night and God bless.